The status of women in Islam, a complex and evolving discourse. The position of women in Islam is a multifaceted and layered subject rooted in sacred texts, history, and diverse interpretations. Contrary to common and often simplistic perceptions, it cannot be reduced to a single definition or absolute decree. Understanding this status requires moving beyond stereotypes and examining it within the framework of historical transformation, foundational religious principles, and the myriad interpretations that have evolved over centuries. From an ontological and faith-based perspective, Islam proclaims the fundamental equality of women and men before God. The Quran, which Muslims believe to be the revealed word of God, explicitly emphasizes this equality. O mankind, indeed, we have created you from male and female, and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. Quran 49:13. This verse establishes human dignity not on gender, but on piety and righteous conduct. Furthermore, numerous verses promise spiritual reward and salvation equally to both genders, such as, "Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, while they are a believer, we will surely cause them to live a good life, and we will surely give them their reward in the hereafter, according to the best of what they used to do." Quran 1697. This perspective establishes a woman's status as an independent spiritual person, directly accountable to her creator, without intermediary. Historically, at the time of Islam's emergence in the 7th century Arabia, its teachings brought about a revolutionary transformation in the condition of women. In the pre-Islamic Jahiliyyah, age of ignorance society, women were often considered property, denied inheritance rights, subjected to female infanticide, and deprived of many basic human rights. Islam fundamentally altered their status through a series of legal injunctions. The most significant of these was the granting of independent legal personhood and property rights. Unlike many contemporary civilizations, a Muslim woman had the right to own, manage, trade, and contract with her wealth independently. The dowry, mahr, which previously often went to the woman's guardian, became her exclusive and inalienable property. In family law, although the overall structure was based on the man as the financial maintainer, qawwam, of the household, it defined specific rights for women. Marriage was no longer a mere transaction between men. The consent of a competent woman became a condition for its validity. A woman had the right to stipulate specific conditions in the marriage contract, such as the right to initiate divorce or to prohibit polygamy. Islam also, for the first time, mandated a defined share of inheritance for women, though often half that of a brother in similar circumstances, a ruling contextualized by the man's financial responsibility for the family. In the realm of knowledge, prophetic traditions, hadith, such as seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every Muslim, male and female, opened the path for women's participation in education. The wives of the Prophet Muhammad, especially Aisha, became major narrators of hadith and sources of religious rulings after his death. Islamic history is replete with female scholars, jurists, mystics, and poets, such as Rabia al-Adawiyya, Aliyah bint al-Mahdi, and many others. However, understanding women's status in Islam is incomplete without considering the processes of interpretation and jurisprudence. Fiqh. The Quran and Sunnah, prophetic tradition, as the primary sources of Sharia, required interpretation and legal deduction by religious scholars, mujtahids, within varied historical and social contexts. This is where fiqh, or Islamic jurisprudence, enters the picture. Fiqh, largely codified in the classical period, 2nd to 5th Islamic centuries, established detailed rulings based on the primary sources, as well as analogical reasoning, qiyas, and consensus, ijma. This process, undertaken predominantly by men in deeply patriarchal societies, sometimes yielded conservative or restrictive interpretations of the texts, placing greater emphasis on women's domestic and familial roles. For instance, concepts like qawamun, men as protectors and maintainers of women, from Quran 4:34, or hadiths concerning modesty and gender interaction, became focal points and were sometimes interpreted in ways that emphasized male authority and a more private sphere for women. Laws related to testimony, where the testimony of two women is often equated to that of one man in certain contracts. Blood money, diya. In some schools, a woman's compensation is half that of a man's, and certain restrictions on political leadership and judgeship are among the challenging topics in classical fiqh.